How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Pangeekery podcast. God dang it. And I forgot to mute myself. There we go. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Pangeekery podcast, a weekly live video podcast celebrating all things geek from an all-diverse perspective. And what we do is we talk about TV, film, video games, all the cool things, covering all the nooks and crannies of fandom. My name is Earl Balon. I'm an actor, improviser based in Los Angeles, California, and my favorite cinematic dragon is Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh my God. You're really going to do that to us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Zhang. I am an actor, writer, artist, and my favorite cinematic dragon is maybe it's Mushu. I don't know. I love him.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mushu works.
It's an obvious one. You just took the one.
Excuse me. Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin. Today I'm Caitlin.
Hey, what's up, Caitlin?
Nice to meet all you guys. I'm Caitlin. I'm a filmmaker, a writer, an actor, and a musician. And I guess my favorite cinematic dragon, since Earl took Toothless, is Drogon.
Okay.
From Game of Thrones. Yeah.
That works.
And my name is Andy Lowe. I am a director and producer based in Los Angeles. Favorite cinematic dragons. You guys took all the obvious ones. Can I just say Sean Connery? How's that? I'll just say Sean Connery.
Oh, yeah. Dragonheart, yes. I am the last one. The last dragon. That's a good one.
Sean Connery.
That is a cinematic dragon.
Dragon, dude.
It absolutely is. Thank you. I just want to say a shout out to everybody in the chat. Angfernal, Oddball, Wrecker ALC. Thank you for being here. Thank you and welcome everybody to the season finale of season 2 of Pangeekery.
Woo!
Yeah. So we got a chock full episode for you today. We have a few special guests. First of all, we're going to have Eugene Cordero on from Tacoma FD, from The Mandalorian, from Star Trek Lower Decks. And later on, we are going to be talking to Kajo Baldisimo and Budjette, creators of the TRESE graphic novel, soon to be turned into a Netflix series. So we got a lot of stuff going on today. But once again, before we do start, I would like to remind everybody to hit us up on the Twitch chat because, well, you're already here, but hit us up, hit up our Discord server. We'll put that link in chat. And a little announcement later, we do have Patreon. Even though this is but we'll talk about that later. Definitely. Just another reminder. This is our season finale. And even though this stream is going away for a couple months, we will still have streams over the course of our break, as well as some content coming out. So please do keep tuned in on our Discord, because we'll probably put a lot of stuff in there. Keep tuned in. Stay tuned in.
Keep that tune in tune.
Please like us.
Tune in the tunes. Tune. Anyway.
It just keeps getting better.
Yes, it's all. This is going to be great. All right. Thanks, Caitlin.
Kaplan. Let's say Caitlin wrong this whole evening.
This episode.
I don't know, but it's going to be awesome.
You just got very Filipino there. Caitlin.
Caitlin. Okay. Without further ado, let's introduce our first. Let's introduce our first guest, Mr. Eugene Cordero.
Hey, hi.
Thanks for joining us, man. Hey, what's
Welcome
up?
so much. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to be here tonight, this eve.
So you have an impressive IMDb, my friend. You're an actor, an improviser, filmmaker. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into the business?
I was I did theater in high school and stuff, and then went to college for acting, and then in New York, moved to New York, studied acting there, and then got into the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater.
Nice.
Got involved with them pretty deep, and then kind of had my career kind of molded by what I thought was fun based off, a lot of the people that were also being creative in that space. And then then moved out to LA and, continued to put my head down and auditioned for a bunch of stuff that sucked, and then a bunch of great stuff. And then, got a mix of both. And luckily now, get to be involved with a lot of awesome things. So I feel really lucky.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, you've been doing improv like forever, so
yeah.
What got you like to be first interested in it? And did you have any like particular challenges you had to overcome like while you were learning how to do that?
Yeah. I mean, initially, I think, shows like Whose Line Is It Anyway and stuff was at like the British version, and then like the Drew Carey version were on TV. So it was interesting, but I didn't really find it funny until I went to New York and saw an improv show live. Mm-hmm. And that experience was just so different and sweet and awesome. And I just never could see myself. I liked comedy. I don't consider myself a comedian. I consider myself a comedic actor. And I think seeing improv made it feel like it was still kind of theatrical and it's like a theater warm-up type thing. So it didn't feel as like comedy, like you're a comedian, as like doing stand-up. So I really enjoyed it, and I just like got really excited about doing that and doing sketch and and having fun that way. So and then there was a bunch of challenges. I mean, real talk, the hard thing was there wasn't that many people like us that were doing it when I was starting. And right. And so, a lot of the references would either go over my head or my references would go over their head. And then it just felt like I was kind of improvising in a bubble in this world where it was all about everybody being on the same page. And so it just made it a little bit tough, but that's what diversity in improv kind of was back then. And, is still the challenge of it now is like, the whole mentality of group mind. Everybody has to be open to what that means. And, unfortunately, fortunately things are changing. So there's more of it. But, back then it was kind of yikesies.
Yikes.
Really
so,
good at it.
You mentioned Whose Line Is It Anyway? Was it like the difference between like watching because that was like more short form and then going to UCB and seeing something long form? Was that like the big difference for you that made you change your mind about improv?
I actually started in short form first because that's what I saw first. And that was, not to date myself too hard, but when I first moved to New York, the UCB weren't there yet. They just got there when I got there. So they hadn't started doing their long form. I hadn't seen long form. I'd been to Chicago because I'm from Detroit, but I hadn't seen long form improv before. So I was kind of getting caught in short form because it was still kind of, it was still the fun. It was still the fundamentals were the same. They are the same for both. So I was getting excited about the fundamentals and learning it. So I was into short form, but then when I saw long form and saw that it was just like a word and then you go for a half hour or an hour, I was like, ooh, that's even more freeing. And it's so artsy and so theatery, but like at the same time, I was like, ooh, I love it,
Dude, I saw you and Joe Wenger do like a 2-man improv at Comedy Festival like 2 or 3 years ago. And I forgot what the word is, but like y'all, those were the hardest I must have laughed at a 2-person set in like a long time.
Oh, wow.
And, it was excellent. You guys are amazing.
I remember that show. I remember that show in that carpeted room.
Yeah, dude, in the Japanese garden.
Yeah. You're just standing in front of a carpeted room and you're like, I got to do comedy here. But, with just the two of us, it made it a little bit easier because we could kind of like lean into and relax into it. And he's one of those guys, who I feel totally supported with. And I've also known him for, most of my life in improv. Like in New York, we performed together. So then moving out to LA, it was just, exciting. So
nice.
Yeah.
saw you about 3 years ago at Filipino AF, and you were in that Oswang Next Door short. I think that was directed by Bernard.
Yeah.
And I saw you perform, and I was like, this guy is the best one on stage. He's so funny. I didn't know who you were. I'm like, he's like killing the others. He's slaying them. And then I went up to you afterwards. I was like,
competition.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, you're really good. You know that, right? Like, you're really good. Like, you should be famous. And you were just like, thank you. I didn't know who you were. I was like, you should be on TV. Seriously.
I know. Are you on TV at all?
Are you on TV?
I will say that even though it feels and it is ultimately in life like a compliment to hear that you're slaying as an improviser.
You're only as good as your weakest link, right?
And you do feel that weird thing where like you're up there as a group, and if somebody comes up to you, you're like, hey, what are you doing? Stop it.
Calm down.
Talk to everybody or talk to nobody, please. Or like,
Of course, everyone else like,
pull me aside. Pull me
son
aside.
of a bitch.
Dude.
Yeah, I know.
You son of a bitch.
Eugene went for it again. God damn it.
You're really good.
I know.
So that said, just go back to your credits. Like, okay, we've talked about the Asian AF shows, but you've been on Steven Universe, Arrested Development, Hawaii Five-O, Key and Peele, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Veep, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, The Good Place, Drunk History, and of course on Kong Skull Island. So what was it? I mean, there's some huge stars and people that you've gotten to work with. Who are some of your favorites that you got the chance to work with?
We lost your audio.
Uh-oh.
We'll never know.
It's a mystery.
No.
Going to intermission.
No. It's all right. So I'm just going to say what's up to the chat while we fix this this audio issue. Mitch, what's up, man? Angfernal, how you guys doing? Yeah, sorry, no Lovecraft Company today, but we do have like a lot of guests, so we're going to still have a lot of fun. And honestly, I haven't kept up. I haven't watched. I don't know if anybody else has.
You're not allowed to say that. We're on top of everything, Earl.
Yeah, we're on
We
top.
watch
I'm sorry,
every
we're on top
episode before everyone
of
else does.
every show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like every Below Decks episode, we've watched that. But
Every
again,
single one.
again,
You're not hearing me?
Oh, there you
Now
go.
I hear ya.
Gotcha.
Now I hear ya.
He's back,
Weird.
folks.
But I don't know why. Now do I sound different than I was before?
yeah, I think
bit.
like you're on your
Filtered.
webcam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how about
Oh,
now?
there you
go.
go.
You're
There you
back.
go.
Back on the mic.
Okay.
Yes,
I don't know what happened. Yeah.
I know.
What was I saying? Something.
Ultimate. Oh no, yeah, no,
People
you go.
you liked
Andy, yeah.
working with.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
it's weird because a lot of the time I'm just excited to work with my friends. So
Right.
like, and people that I like came up with. So it was like working with Jordan Peele and working with like Nick Kroll and those guys was just like awesome. I get to work with my friends.
Oh, that's so cool.
But
Slap
then
ass.
but then there's the crazy feeling to be like, oh yeah, I'm in front of, Samuel L. Jackson and Hiddleston and Brie Larson. Like Kong was like heavy hitters, like
Right.
it was like a real deal, big budget movie. So they had a bunch of big budget people there, and the cool thing is situations like John Goodman and John C. Reilly, it's like I get opportunities to work with these people that I've been huge fans of. And of course, huge fan of Samuel L. Jackson. And then and then anybody from like Steve Carell to, I don't know, like Don Cheadle. I mean, it was just kind of like, it was awesome. And a lot of the time, what's really cool is I feel like I get the fortunate opportunity to work with people multiple times.
Right.
So then I get to develop like real relationships with a bunch of cool people, and that's that feels really special to me. There's also, people that obviously like my folks were more excited, and my titas and my titos were more excited about than I was. Like they were like, huge Clint Eastwood, they're like, oh gosh, Clint Eastwood, like he's the best. I'm like, he would hate all of us. But at the same time, he's just, but then that's the same, time. It's like you're working with like Michael Pena and Bradley Cooper. So it's like cool. It's cool. Right. I do feel lucky, and I try to get all my work done before I show up to set so I can actually enjoy the moment, and being with a bunch of cool people.
Oh, that's the dream. It's such a dream.
Go ahead.
So Eugene, we were actually on the same episode of Bajillion Dollar Properties, like way back in the day, I think.
Yeah.
But we never. It's filmed like vignette style, so we were not in the same vignettes, but we were on the same episode. And I saw it, I was like, why didn't you put me in this one? I could. But
what season were you? So you were in season 3? I
was in season 3. It was the one with Steven Yeun.
Oh yeah. So I became a regular on that show in season 3 and 4, I think.
Right.
That I loved that show, man.
It was it was a lot of fun.
Talk about improv, like we just
it was really loose, and they're just like, come and do something.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a blast. Why can't we be in the same? I mean, I know. There'll be something else
next time.
There'll be
can be only one.
I know.
There'll be I know. Not anymore. Hopefully that's changing, man.
Yeah.
I know. We're working on it.
Yeah, and we're making some progress. Come on, guys.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's not forget.
Well, at least like all the auditions aren't for like Kung Fu Master and Scientist anymore.
Oh man. And at least I'm going up against other, sometimes Filipinos, but at least up against other Asians now, where it used to be a little bit of a mix where, a lot of the time casting and stuff didn't know what they wanted. So it was just kind of like, for some of us that look kind of ethnically ambiguous, they just kind of throw you in as like the fourth choice,
Right. Can't tell what he is.
Asian gang member number 4.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
I know that one.
Yeah.
So let's move into Star Trek here. So you are Ensign Rutherford on Star Trek Lower Decks. So what was your relationship with Star Trek? Were you much of a fan prior to this, or?
My dad was into like the OG series.
Nice.
And then when I was in college, I would see a few episodes. I wasn't like a diehard, but I saw quite a few episodes. My roommates were into it. And I would be coming like in and out to maybe go to like start doing like improv. Like I was really in college. I was like, "Ooh, improv is this really cool thing." So I remember leaving a lot at night to like go see another underground comedy show or this, that, and the other thing, where the other guys were, either playing like Final Fantasy and then watching like, Next Generation episode. And I would be one of those guys who would walk by.
And casually look at the screen.
Look at the screen. And it would be kind of like, I treated it kind of like I watch a Law and Order. So like you watch the cold open and you're like, am I going to like this episode? And if I do, then maybe I'll stick around for the whole thing. Yeah. If there's like, if it's close to water and it's like something like that, I'll probably not watch it. But if like the murder happens when somebody's running in the park, I'm like, ooh, okay. It's like a park situation. I'll watch this episode. So then like, it was the same with like Picard's like captain's log. If it sounded kind of neat and weird, and I got into that, then I would stick around and, hang out with my roommates. But if not, I like left to go watch some comedy.
So when you got this role, did you like reach out to any of those roommates to just kind of like, okay, what do I need to know about Star Trek? Or
Oh yeah, I reached out to. Well, when I auditioned for it, they gave me fake sides, and it was fake sides, and they didn't tell you that it was a Star Trek thing.
Did you get like an actual character breakdown for Rutherford or
No. It was mainly just like it was a lot of fake sides that involved a lot of technobabble, kind of like trying to get whatever, and it wasn't Star Trek technobabble. It was just kind of like general
Random ass.
technobabble.
And they want to see if you
trying to
can
make
babble.
Yeah, see if you can babble and play, and that was like for round 1, and then by the time I got into the second round of it, they gave me actual sides,
Oh, cool.
and told me what the show was, and then at that point I kind of freaked out and was like, shit, I gotta watch some, and it was just kind of like trying to gauge where in the timeline it fit, so like what to watch around there, and what what timeline it was following, if it
Right.
So then I ended up sitting down and watching a bunch of brushing up on a bunch of TNG, and just making sure that I was up on it enough to kind of gauge who I was most likely closer to in style of character, as far as mentally, but not like actually playing that. So it and it felt like a mix of kind of that engineer, like Geordie, and
Right.
big fan and that. So I just kind of like played into that a little bit more, and then just kind of tried to focus in on like a younger, fresh out of college version of that,
I mean, I gotta say that's something I really enjoy about your character. That he is basically like the optimism of Gene Roddenberry incarnate, right? I mean, you are so excited about being on the ship, and doing all of this. I mean, there's a lot of that that exuberance that kind of comes out. I'm kind of curious, like, so how much of your improv background is coming? Like, are they building this character around you? I mean, I know Mike McMahon comes from Rick and Morty, so he has a lot of experience kind of improvising with performers. Like, are you involved in this process at all, or?
I am to a certain extent. It's written pretty tight. So since it's written so tight, and it definitely has its own pace, we try to stay pretty close to it, especially when it is a lot of Rutherford technobabble, trying to get like these ideas across, but still having the energy of it being, exciting and fun. So a lot of that time I'm just like focusing on getting that right. But then when it's like within the world of that, then we get a little bit of room to kind of play. But I'm doing a lot of my work just kind of in trying to make those lines feel as natural as possible and playing within that. So I'm really just kind of improvising in the way that I'm delivering it, rather than in the way that it would be, going off of the script, because there's like not that much room for it.
Right.
So
what have you learned in how you've recorded a whole season now? What have you learned about delivering technobabble now that that's been so much of your life now?
I hate it. I mean, it's just, it's
really
hard.
just babble.
It's just really hard stuff, because it's
Memorizing
just like
Shakespeare.
words that just don't flow out of my mouth that easily, and then you get it. It's one of those things where, and that kind of voiceover thing where it's like, if you get it right on the first take, that means the rest of the takes you won't get it.
Oh yeah.
If you don't get it in the first takes, then it's like the next few you're going to be able to get it and get a good flow. If you get it on the first one, you go, oh boy, I screwed myself now.
It's all downhill from here.
Yeah,
This
because it's just
is
So
no bueno.
that ends up happening, and I get in my head a little bit with that, and also because I wasn't going into it as hardcore of a fan as everybody else, I would get worried about pronouncing things a little differently, or if somebody does say like, actually it's this, then I feel dumb, you know, but that didn't happen that often. So I felt like I did my homework enough that, you know, I came out on the positive. So.
And did you all have to record at like home studios or in studio or?
We recorded most of it before the pandemic hit.
Okay.
And then once it did, it was a lot of pickups. And, you know, they would send all of the gear to your house. So you had like, you know, so then I was sweating over the fact that they sent all the expensive stuff that I had to set up myself and, you know, try to keep my kids quiet, you know?
Yeah. I remember seeing a video of Jack Quaid talking about this. Actually, you were in this video as well. You know, just talking about his setup and how it was in a closet and he had like eggshell foam on the inside. You had to find a place in your house that was like quite enough from your kids, or?
Oh yeah. I had to find a closet that was far away from anywhere they were playing. And, or, you know, or my wife had to like take them on a drive, you know, just like, you know, would just be like McDonald's or something, and you know,
It's a partnership.
So nice.
yeah. So it was like a lot of that. But then, you know, so then there was an additional stress to like try to get it done fast because I felt like I was putting my family out, you know, of being at home, and also, you know, having all this equipment at the house and everything. So it was not as easy as it is. You know, there was part of me initially that I was like, ooh, they're bringing the stuff over. I get to record from home. What a cool idea.
No.
Not when everybody is
pain in the
home.
ass.
Yeah.
Isolation and right, exactly.
So, but yeah.
Real quick, Andy, I'm sorry. I had a real quick question. So the name of the ship is called Cerritos, right? Is it a coincidence that one of the first Filipino Americans in a Star Trek series is on a ship called the Cerritos?
The Cerritos.
Yeah, you would think, right?
It's not.
It was weird. Yeah, the original name of this ship was the USS Historic Filipino Town. What? No.
That would have been amazing.
That would have been dope.
Hi-fi ship.
Hi-fi ship.
Fucking
USS
hi-fi
Hi-Fi.
ship. That would have been cool.
Hi-fi.
I mean, I
USS
might end
Daily
up on that
City.
ship. Yeah. Daily City. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
That would actually be the shuttlecraft, right? You'll have a shuttlecraft.
I know, right?
The Daily City. Yeah.
Yes.
Daily City.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean,
All the Filipinos in chat right now.
They haven't fully released or revealed anything as far as, you know, Rutherford being actually, you know, Filipino or not, but like in the world, it's just so cool. I feel lucky that my character can be, I mean, you know, you look at the character and you're like, definitely could be Filipino, and they're not shying away from it either, you know, when they were casting it. So, you know, it's cool. I'm happy.
So that said, I mean, now you've been through Star Trek Day. Like, what has it like been interacting with fans and now like being part of Star Trek?
I didn't realize what it was going to be. This is like next level, you know, fandom. And I think it's great. And again, it's just one of those, it's almost just how I am kind of with anything where, you know, the people that care about it the most, I want to make happy, you know, like within that world. If you're in that world that this is something that you love, you know, then I want to make sure that I'm playing, you know, to the best of my ability to, you know, honor that, you know, and it comes as anything really, like when even for like Tacoma FD or something, I'm not trying to be a bad fireman. We're trying to be the best firemen we can be so that we don't come off as, you know, idiots. We do idiotic things, but you know, we're not idiots. We're still great at our job. And I think when it comes to, you know, something like Star Trek, it's like, I need to nail that technobabble so that I'm doing this like whole this whole world a service where they're not going to go like, you know what? It's actually, and I'm just like, I let you guys down. And especially the thing that makes it really hard is the fact that he has the Vulcan implant.
Right.
So it's just like, so he has to have it right because it's fucking math in his brain at this point.
It's
I don't have the opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't have the opportunity to be humanized with that stuff.
I gotta say, I'm looking forward to seeing how that implant plays out more. In future episodes.
Oh man,
just such a fun conceit.
In the finale, it's really cool when you guys see it of how it plays out of the first season, at least. Yeah.
Now, speaking of other first seasons, you were also in The Mandalorian.
I was, yeah.
Tell us what that process. I mean, that must have been a crazy, of course, being a part of something giant and iconic like Star Wars, but also kind of pioneering a whole new way of filming, right?
Yeah. I mean, walking onto that set was like, oh, this is Star Wars money, baby. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, this is next level Disney / Star Wars money, honey. I mean, it was for real.
Oh my God.
And you walk in and it's like going into like, at the, going to the ArcLight in Hollywood and the dome. But it's like all of those were $1 million screens surrounding you. And if you looked at it, it looked real from a distance. If you got closer to it, it still looked real. If you got really close, it looked digital.
Right.
And then if they're framing the shot like the shot where you see me right now, everything on the outside of my hands would be just that good of digital. But then right here, it would be so high tech that if I walked up to it, it would still look like I'm looking out the window.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
Wow.
It was crazy. And there was like NASA sitting outside of that thing. There was like 40 dudes sitting there, eating donuts on computers, like making sure that it all worked. And you were just like, holy, I mean, it's just next level. I mean, and then, but the ground is still, it's still Star Wars dirt, so you're still walking on the planet of Star Wars. And, you had to rehearse in your regular clothes and then they throw a cloak on you once you get in the costume and,
So just to catch up listeners, in case they don't know what we're talking about. So filming The Mandalorian, they were kind of pioneering this use of VR technology with LED projected visuals or backgrounds kind of around the set. And all of that, those backgrounds were generated in real time on Unreal Engine with like literally a VR headset strapped to the camera so that seamlessly the backgrounds would
parallax
with the camera movement. And that said, when you're on set and the background is moving, like, do you get vertigo when like the background starts morphing?
Yeah. So if you watch that episode that I'm in, like, once we're in the village, like there's 3 or 4 actual huts, and then all the huts extended are fake and in the digital world, but it looks like, you're still there.
Wow.
Where it still feels like you're there. And then the ship, his, the Mandalorian's ship is there, and then anything around it is not. And then when we bring the Mandalorian to our village, we're riding in that, in that transport, and then the trees are all moving. So that's all that fake, like, LED. So it's all moving, on both sides of you, like you're moving, and there's still one guy underneath that's just shaking.
Oh my God.
So there's a guy like on his back just shaking the machine.
Pay no
like,
attention to the man behind the camera.
That's dope.
And then there's like 3 or 4 people hiding behind it, controlling the child.
Oh my God.
So
Child.
So you're
$5
in
million
there,
puppet,
yeah, and I mean, which was its own thing. We had to sign a separate release about the child. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So then, but like anytime we were moving like that, if the camera's not on you, you just close your eyes. Like you
jeez.
Oh, dang. That's crazy.
Because it's
Did they have like barf bags on the side just in case?
right?
Oh.
They didn't, but they
no.
Everybody was pretty cool. Was pretty great with it. So I think
Dude,
everybody was really excited.
Does this make you the first canonical Phil-Am in the Star Wars universe?
I don't know. Does it?
I don't know, because we know
there's
that
those little
The Ewoks.
Yeah.
those little things.
Ayun na maganda. The Ewoks do talk. They speak Tagalog.
Tagalog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if but I'm happy that I'm part of it. I feel like one of the Fets was also
Probably.
like there's a Fet out there that's definitely
Pretty close.
Going back to Baby Yoda, so what was it like acting against the puppet? I mean, were there moments when you were just engaged with the puppet, or are you always kind of like, gotta try to not telegraph that this is a puppet?
I mean, it was so I shot a couple of scenes where it was just like me, the guy Asif, and the Mandalorian doing those scenes. So when we showed up and did those first ones, I'm already starstruck because I'm like, holy shit, there's a Mandalorian in front of me.
Right.
Like how you just called him the Mandalorian.
and it is. And it's just
his
like,
name is the Mandalorian, yeah.
and it's just kind of crazy that you're just like, oh, okay, these scenes. So you get over that eventually. And then they go, okay, are you guys ready? You need to sign this release and we need to introduce you to this. And because you can't release it, it was like the biggest secret, right?
Oh, right. Because even right.
Yeah. So and if you remember that episode too, there's a bunch of children there. So I don't know how they. I mean, a couple of them might be dead, but but I think they kept a pretty good secret.
That's crazy, man.
And I just remember they went, okay, here it is, and you see it, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, it's huge. And then you try to play with it, like just play off of it, and it's moving. I mean, it's the guys who do that for a living. Right. So the 4 guys are controlling it, and it's moving like it's real.
Is it a little freaky?
Yeah, it's scary. Except for the fact, and they edited this out because you don't need to see this. But when we're going into our cargo thing, I pick the child up, or Baby Yoda up, however you want to say it,
right?
And put it in our carrier. So that took 4 hours for them to like put all of the wires through my costume.
Gosh.
Oh my
God. It could move and still do its facial stuff before I put it down. So it took like 2 hours to like put that in there, and then for them to get it right. And then just for them to do a kind of over the shoulder shot.
Right.
And then a shot of me kind of picking it up, looking at it like, this is weird. And then it looking at me blinking,
Very
and
cute,
then
like.
And it's like, and you look at it and you're like, oh fuck, this thing is blinking at me. But and then you go, oh right, the reason it's blinking at me is because I have like 80 pounds of wires going through my back.
Dude, that's dope.
And of course, hundreds of people just went, you got to hold Baby Yoda.
I think all of us right now.
You got to touch it.
Touch it.
Pretty neat. Yeah.
So, Eugene,
so I guess that was my biggest fanboy experience.
Right.
As far as get to work with a Yoda. Yeah.
Wow. What was it like working with Bryce Dallas Howard?
I mean, she was great. She was really focused on the actors. Like she's an actor's director, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, she's really making sure that you're mentally in the right headspace to be in it, and play in that world. And that's really cool to see, that style of directing. So,
Yeah. Well, and as an actress who has been chased by dinosaurs and lots of other things as well, right?
But that was the weird thing is, she was on set and then we were in between scenes and she was like, "Hey, have you met my dad?" And then all of a sudden, Ron Howard's there, and you're like,
Oh my god.
and it's just like, that's
you met
crazy.
Richie Cunningham?
I did, yeah,
That's freaking rad.
I met Richie Cunningham.
Yes, I'm going to date myself every episode.
Yeah.
It's okay, dude. Date myself all the time. It's all right. So were you a big Star Wars fan before popping in on?
I was a bigger Star Wars fan than I was a Star Trek fan.
Oh.
At the time,
here, everyone.
At the
time, currently I am forever a Star Trek Trekkie.
Trekkie.
But at the time I knew more Star Wars stuff than I did Star Trek, but wasn't a huge fan, but liked it quite a bit. Yeah.
That's still pretty dope, man.
But it was dope. And you couldn't see it but the detail of everything for that show was pretty intense, where even I had that long wig, but as part of the wig, they braided my hair because that's how they braid the hair for Star Wars. So I had the kind of top braid, Jedi braid thing in the middle.
Oh,
and you're just like, how cool is that? Yeah, I don't know.
No, that's I would lose all faculties at that moment.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna segue onto The Good Place because your castmate and one of our friends, Mitch Naredo, has also been in The Good Place with you, and play Pillboy. So what was it like working with Mitch and on that same set?
And Manny at the same time.
Yeah. Manny and Mitch, they were great. Shout out to both those guys. Shout out to Mitch right now because he's dealing with some hard stuff and
man.
With
thinking
his
about
life,
you, bro.
So, we're thinking about you, and that's tough, especially right now in this. But I mean, Manny and I have actually started becoming pretty close friends. From The Good Place, we met that first episode we did together, and then ever since they're really connected. So we got really close, and then the first day that Mitch was there, Manny texted me like, "Dude, you're gonna love this dude."
That's so cool.
And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "You're gonna love him." I'm like, okay, cool. So then I show up and I meet him, and there was something that he did that he didn't even mean to be funny and was probably the funniest thing I have seen in a while. That. And Manny and I couldn't stop laughing for easily 20 minutes.
Oh.
But yeah, so he was fun. I mean, and the fact that me and him got to do the whole kind of Shark Tanky thing in that episode was really fun. So I like Mitch a lot. I like when I get to see him around.
He's in chat right now, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey man, it's good to we're thinking of you, bud.
Well, now I want to know what he said that made you guys laugh for 20 minutes.
Oh, so we were shooting that scene, the Shark Tank scene, and they wanted us to sound pretty, on top of our game of what we were selling.
Right.
So we started doing the pitch, and then they were like, okay, hey Mitch, why don't you do that part again? And I think because we were so focused on doing that, he jumped to the next scene.
Oh my god.
And I don't even think he realized it, and he started saying the lines of the next scene, and me and Manny went, what's happening? and I don't and I'm like, oh, I think I think it's the part that we're doing right now. And he was like, oh, and then he just got into it. And I think it was just because of that kind of, in the moment, we're just trying to move as quick as we can and get that one thing right, and like have the bottle up and do this thing that he didn't realize that he had skipped over to, not even like the next line, but the next scene. That was like, because Manny and I were like, what lines are is that the next scene he's doing?
Did they yell cut at that point, or they just kind of?
Yeah. They yelled cut, and they were just like, they were like, oh, okay, like, why don't we? I mean, it was really just kind of like, you just kind of get lost in it. So they cut really quick, and then just were like, oh, well, we're actually starting from the beginning of this. Why don't we do it from the beginning of this whole part? Like, so that we got into it, because it was a clunky area to kind of start from again. It was like, in the middle of the scene, and and we ramp up to it so much that I get it, but I think we were just like, because it was a foreign moment, even it was like what we were trying to figure out what it was from, so that's what we were laughing about mainly.
Oh, that's great. It's
Great.
that stuff, like just a little like misunderstandings on set they're great.
Oh man, so fun.
So I think we're really close to the end of our time here with you, but just really quickly, can you talk a little bit about some of the experiences working on Kong?
I mean, it was 6 months. It was a long shoot, and we were in Hawaii and Vietnam and in Australia. And, at the time, they hadn't shot that many movies in Vietnam in the places we were shooting.
Right.
So it was pretty intense, especially the fact that we were wearing American fatigues in that were Vietnam War era American fatigues in there. So it felt a little bit weird. But overall, it was one of my favorite. I mean, I don't think I've ever been on, and I don't know if I'll be on something that's like that again. It was just, like 6 months together, we got really close with everybody, and got to like really form some real relationships with some of the people in that cast, and, still get to check in, and, and it was just really, I love the way that was stylized. I've worked with Jordan Voight-Roberts on a number of things prior to that, and I liked his style of directing, and even the way he made Kong look different than any kind of monster movie that you've kind of seen, like just so focused on, the cinematography of it and everything was just really cool. Even though, a lot of the time it's just us walking for 6 months and looking at a dot.
I was going to say, really what did they give you for reference?
No. It was a lot of dots. It was a lot of, or like when we were in Vietnam, it was a lot of like, stick. Yeah. Right. In Vietnam, though, it was a lot of like, you see that rock over there? Okay. So a little bit to the left of it, there's a leaf. Okay. Everybody look at that leaf. Okay. Eugene, look really scared at that leaf. All right, Eugene, shoot the leaf, please. Or whatever. So like that kind of stuff. But like, there was crazy. It was also, when we first run into Kong, that first scene where we, see him for the first time, I'm like shooting this humongous gun outside of a helicopter. Right. And in Hawaii, we shot that, and a helicopter pilot was flying me around, and I was leaning outside of a helicopter and shooting a gun at a camera that was like 40, 50 feet in the air, shooting right at the camera, blanks, but just shooting this. So then,
and you're just like, hazard pay. Yeah.
And the stunt man, I had like, I had the wires hooked up to me, but I was leaning outside of this, and it's a stunt helicopter driver, and a guy dressed up as John Goodman, a stunt guy, who's with all of his might just at my belt, holding me by my belt, just as like, so he knows because
You
it was
don't
kind
fall.
of like to also be like, I have you if all those wires don't have you.
Wow.
Right.
It was like a very stuntman-y thing to do, but it was
That's
just
God,
very,
dude.
Yeah.
Crazy.
it was very
That is-
intense. But also, every time I see that scene, I'm like, that was one of the coolest experiences to,
That-
do.
Yeah.
That sounds super cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, dude, Eugene, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a pretty awesome interview. Glad you could take time out of your busy schedule to chat with us for a little bit. Is there anything
of
you
course.
want? Yeah. Is there anything you wanted to say, plug, anything like that? Feel free.
I mean, there's still 4 more episodes of Lower Decks,
Whole
so
half
watch
season,
it.
right?
Yeah. So CBS All Access, and then a 3rd season of Tacoma is coming out, and then some other stuff is going to be coming out also that will be exciting.
Great.
Somewhat soon and somewhat not because of the pandemic and stuff. So we'll see. But cool.
Awesome.
It's great to be here.
Thank you
so
so
much.
much
Thank you for
coming
being
on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
of course.
yeah,
Live
man,
long
stay
and
safe
prosper.
out there. Get some rest. Live long and
Yes,
prosper.
please.
Cool.
The obligatory.
Eugene.
know.
Awesome.
All right, thanks,
guys.
Eugene, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Peace.
Woo!
So we are going to move into our next section of the show of our 2-hour like super extravaganza finale. We're going to play the Doom trailer. Doom. We're going to not Doom. That's a different movie. Caitlin.
Cape Lim.
Cape Lim.
Yeah,
Cape
Cape
Lim.
Lim.
Boom.
Okay, Cape Lim. We're going to play the Dune trailer. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. So roll that beautiful bean footage.
Yes.
All right. That was pretty amazing. I don't know about y'all. Those makers at the end, that maker. I'm ready for this. Like as I was commenting in the chat during the trailer, just this cast list alone just gets me a little verklempt. I don't know. I'm looking forward to this.
For me,
Looking
it's
forward to
I'm just so stoked by the visual style, right? I mean, there's
Right.
so much to dig into when you're looking at this.
Right.
It's a
There's-
feast for the eyes,
Yeah,
It is an eye
if
feast.
you will. An eye feast.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I know we said this. Go ahead, Jen.
I still have no idea what those giant sandworms are. So
Oh,
it's
yes,
like,
you do, Jen.
there's
You said
all-
they were buttholes. You said
They
were.
look like giant butt.
You
Giant
said they were
ass
giant
buttholes.
ass.
Just
Ass
singular.
buttholes.
They do. They are giant ass buttholes. And
That-
they're
that
like
was
they're
the
same,
word.
Like
That
rectal.
was
The
the
term.
phrase that Jen, when she
Yeah.
first saw the trailer, she goes, "That's a giant ass."
That's a giant ass
Giant
butthole.
ass hyphen butthole. So not giant ass. So this is how it sounded.
Butthole.
Giant ass butthole.
Every time I rewatch that,
With a
It's
lot
not
of
burned.
teeth. With like a dentata. With like several rows of
Vagina
dentatas in it.
dentata. Oh my god. Are we talking about
God.
teeth?
vagina
Are we-
bits.
It was an
That freaking
anal
movie.
dentata.
Okay then.
All right. Sphincter dentata. This is where we're
That's my
going.
theory, but I don't know what it thematically
Dragon glass
actually
dildos. I'm
serves in
glad.
this
I'm glad we're here again.
You guys, we have a guest. He's waiting to be let on.
I know.
Can't
It's
just
all
be
right.
talking about giant dildos.
Giant ass
Still
buttholes.
does. Yes.
So
Anyways.
I know we do have a react video to this. If you want to see, like, it's up on YouTube. We'll put that in. We'll put that in the chat at some point. Sphincter Hulud, Shy Hulud. But I am the Kwisatz Sarak.
Wadib.
Moadib. So check out that React video. There's something I did say, and I kind of just want to reiterate that the production design is freaking amazing so far on this, and I definitely am looking forward to that, and all the freaking Filipino martial arts up and everywhere. Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
are they doing
'Cause,
Cali?
yeah, a lot of it, like all this stuff.
Is that confirmed? I mean, I know we were spotting stuff, but it's like
Right.
Confirmed
I
in
don't
Earl's
know.
mind.
The salutation.
Kinda.
The salutation is
The
definitely
salutation even
is
is-
a FMA.
This
Salutation. Yeah.
this is like
This thing. Yeah.
I noticed
One-
this. Yeah.
One of the
that's like
guys,
how
Rafael
martial arts.
Kayan, he's a good friend of Will's. He actually as soon as the Dune trailer posted, he posted that on his Insta. That he said, "Yeah,
Cool.
that's a lot of. It's definitely influenced, and
There's actually-
I was like, this is all up in there.
There's actually a lot of Eskrima like kind of showing up in a lot of films. I feel like. I mean, not
Yeah.
Getting more and
necessarily.
more
I feel like it
popular.
was
Eskrima, but
Avengers
fighting
started
style, yeah.
using it.
A lot.
too.
Well, even in, I mean, like we're talking back in like Blade because
Yeah.
Jeffrey Mata was the stunty on that one, and he's a FMA guy. So like a lot of it, you can see it even now. A lot of like the sword movements and like all that. It's a lot of FMA.
I gotta say, even when I do fight choreography, it's like, and I'm doing
Right.
mostly like kung fu style, but I will
Right.
use the Filipino numbering system because it
Right,
is so
1,
fast
2, 3,
to
4,
teach. Yeah,
5, 6. Yeah,
it is. It is a
absolutely.
great system to kind of teach people quickly.
like notation and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember like back when we talked about Birds of Prey and how like
Right.
Harley Quinn's bat was like using martial arts, in that style, and
Right.
that's just like such a creative use of that,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and it blows my mind. Well,
But,
way
yeah,
to
this is-
segue into
It looks
representation,
interesting.
I know,
First they use
absolutely.
our martial arts, then they use our people, then they use our stories.
I know.
It was
Then
interesting,
eventually they write us
yeah.
as characters. Eventually,
Eventually,
Right.
in the
Yeah.
distant future.
I know.
It's so funny.
2050.
Yeah. My best friend growing up, she read the Dune novel and she didn't even know this movie was coming out.
Wow, really?
I was like, hey, did you see the Dune trailer? And she's like, they're making a movie? I was like, girl, where have you been? Yes.
Come on.
And oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say. So I did see actually a really cool video where someone basically re-edited video from the original David Lynch
original
film,
1980s.
Right, from
as
the David
well
Lynch,
as
right.
the as well as the what is
The miniseries?
the miniseries,
2000 miniseries.
and lined up all three kind of to the audio.
Interessante.
Send that to me or put in the chat or something.
I'll send that to you. I'll have to find it, but yeah, it was kind of cool to just kind of see the difference in aesthetics.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, the story kind of has a lot of like Middle Eastern type Arabic culture influences. And my best friend was hoping that there would be more like, I was trying to tell her, it's a very multicultural cast, but she wanted more
Right.
Middle Eastern actors. But then I showed her the trailer, and when she saw Jason Momoa, she got excited. So I guess
You can't not get excited
solved
when
everything,
Momoa's
yeah.
on screen.
Memory wipe.
I showed it to
I
a
know.
room full of girls, and when Jason Momoa came on the screen, everyone was like, ah! So that should be multicultural.
That should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's- all things are forgiven with Momoa.
Yeah, with Momoa
question.
in the yeah.
But yeah, this is it looks super cool. Can't wait till this comes out. Do you have something else about it? And
Just the other thing that I just really, which I think I commented on before, was I love the music choice. I love using
Right,
Dark Side of the
right.
Moon in this kind of haunting arrangement.
Floyd.
And just knowing contextually what that album is about and kind
Right.
of about humanity and how that kind of parallels the themes of Dune. Like that was just a great kind of poof when I caught that.
I mean,
Cool.
I'm just glad this is like my hoity-toity like dad music buff like coming out because I'm a huge like Radiohead fan.
music.
Like all the dad rock music
Right.
that they like have reappropriated to use in like sci-fi and in new
Like,
movies.
right.
Like with all the Radiohead, with all the Tom York, with all the Nine Inch Nails, you know what I mean? The fact that Trent Reznor and
slow
Atticus
versions
Ross
of like all
are
that.
all
Right.
making Watchmen, you know what I mean? It just like makes me feel really good. Like if you look at Westworld and even like the player piano
yeah.
playing
Right.
all these like Radiohead songs, just makes my
So we should
preteen
get
self
into
feel very
that.
validated. I just need to say
Did
that.
you get into like just making slow versions of classic songs?
Exactly.
Somebody's gonna option it for something.
Or something, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But in addition, we have a few other tidbits of nerd news coming about. Kang the Conqueror has been named as a villain for Ant-Man 3. So, and the character is to be played by Jonathan Majors from Lovecraft Country. So if you've been watching that, he is Tick.
Yay.
But and that's a really interesting choice. I mean, if people are familiar with who Kang the Conqueror is, Kang the Conqueror is like that's a heavy hitter villain to be going up against Ant-Man and the Wasp. So it has major implications for where they are headed past this in the broader Marvel universe.
Because he did play like a significant part in like Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity Wars in the comic books. So like you said, it's leading towards a path, and with Eternals on the slate as well, you could kind of see like an intersection happening already.
Yeah, but no spoilers. We won't talk too deeply about that. But
exactly,
those of you who know,
nerd. Yeah.
We also had some interesting stuff from the Star Trek Day that just passed, because it was the anniversary of the first airing of the first original series Star Trek that just passed. I'm repeating myself, sorry. But we got a new trailer for Discovery Season 3, which will be premiering October 15th. We also got to hear some from the creative team of Strange New Worlds, which is the new series following Captain Pike and Spock and Number One. Right. So that was very exciting to see. A lot of good stuff. You can find all of that on the interwebs.
That's a lot of cool stuff. Cobra Kai Season 3, they just released news that they already have it. Like, it's not even past canon. It's like done. Like, it's edited and ready to air pretty much. It's been trending ever since.
Netflix, though, right?
Right. You got to release on Netflix, so everybody's been able to watch it. It was previously on YouTube Red. Is that what the service was called back then? Yeah. Or YouTube TV. But Elizabeth Shue is returning, and so we should see more from that.
The other interesting thing is that the trailer they released was mostly a recap of season 1 and 2, kind of saying that it's on Netflix, so you can catch up right now. But there's a little bit of a teaser at the end, which is implying some tie-ins to Karate Kid 2. So for those of you who remember those characters and those stories,
I am the man who fight for your honor.
And many actors who are friends of the pod, I believe, too. So friends I know, anyways.
Right.
Also, Don Bluth at age 82 is now opening a second animation studio.
Yes.
Right.
So, that got me excited.
I know.
And focused on 2D animation specifically.
I know.
Right. Specifically.
Bring it back, guys. Bring it back.
I posted about this early on Facebook, and I was like, I'm ready for Don Bluth to make another Generation Cry. Because I don't know if you watched like some of these in a while.
I've never heard of that Generation Cry.
Generation Cry.
It's like Generation Y, but post-global warming.
Exactly.
I just know he needs to take back Anastasia from Disney. So.
Or after just like, But
and rotoscoping.
Rotoscoping, yeah. Oh my gosh, rotoscoping. But I'm like, if y'all don't know who Don Bluth is, like,
get the fuck out.
He's one of the main people like responsible for things like Secret of Nim, American Tail, Line Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Anastasia, a lot of like big time.
Thumbelina. Don't forget the princess ones.
Also, if you're old like me, then remember the video game Dragon's Lair or Space Ace, which he did all the animation for that. Yeah. He actually goes back to the classic days of Disney animation. He was that generation of animators who were trained by the original 9 Old Men. And he left Disney in a huff after he was frustrated with some of the practices that they were reusing animation and kind of making cutbacks, and started his own studio and basically challenged Disney to reinvest in innovating animation, The Secret of Nim.
Yes. And I mean, like, you can, like, just looking at this, the old Don Bluth stuff, I'm super excited about it, because the stories were they didn't pull punches. They did not pull punches. Like Secret of Nim was dark. I mean, it was based on a book. But I mean, there was a lot of just like themes of like race, prejudice, family responsibility, all this stuff. It's pretty heavy.
Oh, and then of course American Tail with its immigrant story. There are no cats in America.
Somewhere out there, beneath the pale moonlight. The Who saw Titan AE.
Yeah, Titan
Oh, yeah,
AD.
Okay, watch it again though. The 2000s,
no,
the
this
early
does
2000s
not.
music doesn't really age well. But I had a huge fat crush on
synth rock.
Matt Damon.
Right.
Yeah, there's a little
Yeah.
too much Creed. And
Walls are open.
all of Don Bluth's male heroes have like the same bowl cut with like the forehead tendrils that made all
Okay,
the
to be
girls
fair,
in the 90s.
those of us in like the late 90s had that haircut.
I'll
Thank you very much.
Gotcha.
We may have had that.
I also had the penis head when I was in high school.
No.
I still have the penis head. I don't know what that means.
Giant ass buttholes.
Giant ass buttholes, penis head.
Yes. Thank you. This has been Pangeeker.
Oh man.
I know. And thank you everybody for watching Pangeeker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the show.
Thank you.
So the next bit of news I'm really excited about. So they also released a new Animaniacs trailer.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
For the new show of Animaniacs. They're starting on November 20th on Hulu.
What?
They have brought back a lot of the original cast members. So Rob Paulson, Tress MacNeille, and Jess Harnell are Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. Maurice
Whoa.
LaMarche is back
Right.
for The Brain. It is
Yes.
great. It is
The
great to
Brain's
see
coming
them.
back too.
Yeah.
Oh, you had to bring back like all the characters as far as I know.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. I mean, I'm hoping, as it was then, that this is like the harbinger of another golden age of animation, right?
Yeah.
Right. I think now I don't know if it's just because of pandemic, but because everybody seems to have a little more time, or everything is slower in general. Everybody's like, let's go back to the classic techniques because I mean, what else are we doing right now? But I even if that's not the case, I'm glad that there's a trend in that direction because I do miss that kind of stuff.
I do miss it as well. Yeah. Disney tries to blend 3D and 2D with its latest features, but I just think there's a charm to pure 2D,
Definitely
Right.
is.
Well, and true
the
expressionism,
same.
right? And
Yeah.
something
Oh, absolutely.
that a lot of I think there are some amazing CGA animators that do amazing things, but it's still very
Right.
much more. It's a different logic when you're
different.
thinking like puppetry. You're creating a model and you're manipulating it versus the complete freedom of the pen. I'm a big animation nerd, so
Yay!
Mhm.
Me too.
Nice. So also, I mean, that's exciting, but talking about, I guess not necessarily more animation, but like had something to do with animation. DC Fandom. They did another weekend or another day of it this past weekend. I was not able to check this out, but I know Andy, you watched this, right?
I caught some. There was a lot. I know that there was a lot of people had problems logging on, and it was a different format. This was all video on demand. It wasn't like a day long stream.
Oh, got it.
So
It
you
wasn't,
could
like,
like kind of
super
pick and
curated,
choose what you could engage with, and it was all available for about a 24-hour period. So a couple of main things, they did do a panel for Titans season 3 and kind of teased out some things that they're going to do with that. They were kind of loosely teasing out maybe seeing the Red Hood as a villain for the season, also setting this season in Gotham, possibly the Scarecrow, and a Commissioner Barbara Gordon, which I'm really curious to see how they want to kind of set that up. They are also talking about. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, it's just I'm unaware of the timeline. So this is like post Oracle, or is it like an alternate?
It's it's tough to say, right? Because DC has been leaning very heavily into their multiverse mythology.
Yeah.
So
ever since the New 52.
and that's the thing, right? Like Titans exist in its own universe that runs parallel to all the CW shows, and that has its own universe, right? So they've established all the movies, all the shows, all the upcoming movies, all kind of coexist in parallel universes, and potentially could cross over. And that's kind of what they seem to be teasing out. Getting to actually another thing that they talked a little about was they had a Q&A for the next Flash film. And if you're familiar with the story, Flashpoint storyline, where the Flash does something that basically affects the multiverse. They are using that as a touch point to inspire this film, but it's not a direct adaptation, which we all kind of thought it was going to be. But the quote is, there are a lot of DC characters in this film. Flash is a superhero of this film because he is the bridge between all these characters and timelines, and in a way it restarts everything and doesn't forget anything. So that's something, if anyone who has watched any of the CW shows, they did their version of Flashpoint as well as Crisis, and we got to kind of see a blending of everything from classic Brandon Routh Superman to,
which was great, you know, that they brought all these people.
Batman 1989, and even actually had what's his name, Dick Ward show up as
Robin,
as Dick Grayson at one point, which is hysterical. So I mean, they're really kind of leaning into this multiverse idea.
Yeah. Do we know if like Commissioner Barbara Gordon is going to become Batgirl at some moment, or if it's just going to be like
no,
that's what we were talking about just now. Like when I asked him about like whether this was like the Oracle timeline, and he's saying that like we don't know because in multiple different timelines, Barbara Gordon becomes different things. So. It could be that, but it could in the Commissioner timeline. It's all screwy. It could be anything.
Screwy.
I mean, having Commissioner Barbara Gordon is already a reference to Batman Beyond, right?
Right.
Well, Batman Beyond, where an older Barbara Gordon leaves Bruce Wayne after a torrid affair that they had, and leaves the Batgirl persona.
How many affairs does he have?
All of them.
Batman Beyond,
he's Batman.
The Terry.
The 2000s. I had a crush on him too.
Terry Bogard?
No, Terry. He was so sexy with his early 2000s type haircut.
Good to know.
His jet black hair and his gothic girlfriend with black lipstick.
Right. Because I mean, Batman of the comics is like has literally slept with everybody. I swear.
And speaking of Batman, September 19th is Batman Day, and they've announced a number of promotions. Batman and Riddler voices will be available on Waze until October 31st. That's right. Kevin Conroy can tell you how to get to work in the morning.
I am the night.
And the night is to your left in 500 meters.
And the night is to your left.
There's also a Batman virtual run, 5K and a 10K, where they send you a box. You do the run on your own time. They've also announced a number of things on HBO Max and DC Hub, which you can kind of check out as that comes out on September 18th and 19th. So keep an eye out for all of those things.
What I'm super excited about is that they did announce Young Justice 4, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't caught up on 3, but if anybody has not picked up Young Justice at some point,
it's a great show.
It's so good.
It's superhero Black Ops.
Right, and it's the showrunners. It's the showrunners of Gargoyles. So
Yes. Oh my god.
But that's all we have for Nerd News. We do have our next special guest coming up right now. And as soon as we get the magic of
the gathering.
Let's say what's up to Budjette and Kajo Baldisimo. Thank you for joining us today. If y'all could unmute.
Hi guys.
Hello.
We are not muted.
Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Oh my God. I know. This is truly worldwide.
Yes.
We are global at this point.
This is an international
convention.
I know. The International Convention of creatives.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
For inviting us. I wasn't sure I was in the right show.
No, you were. We apologize for the vulgarities. That's just how we are.
I now have to
Giant
binge
actor.
watch the rest of your season. So
There are no buttholes in the other
Oh,
ones. but-
yes.
Oh, there's worse though. There's
There's worse, actually.
there's worse. There's
Yeah.
more talks. Like, how much is a buttload?
Yeah,
That was one of our first.
that was our first episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
But
Welcome,
budget,
you all.
yes, budget
That is
is. What time is it there? It's 6:17 a.m. No,
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much for joining.
thank
us.
you. And Kajo, well, it's daytime for you there, so
Yes.
you're okay.
Lunchtime. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us for lunch.
Thank you for having
So-
us.
If everybody out there does not know, Budgette is the writer and Kajo is the artist for the graphic novel series TRESE, which is first of all getting an American imprint here in the States pretty soon, but also is coming soon to Netflix as an anime series produced by Netflix. So a lot of good stuff coming soon for both of you. And I'm super appreciative that you're joining us today.
Very much. Yes.
Thank you.
Always
So-
great to talk about our myths and folklore.
Oh, absolutely. I love that there's more of that. There's more of that being produced these days, you know. Budgette,
I was gonna-
Kajo.
Okay.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna ask Budgette. Since Filipino mythology is like so vast, and there's so many different elements, right? There's like witches, there's aswang, there's like so many different things. How do you? I feel like every person who builds like a fantasy series has to like decide for themselves like how large and how magical is their world. You know, like what are the hard rules that you want to build into your world building, right? So like what are some of those decisions that you had to make as far as for TRESE goes?
Yeah, interesting question. That I mean, there are a lot of comic books right now, and a lot of comic books that came before TRESE that showed, you know, Philippine mythology. In our case, as Kajo might also say, we do it the lazy way. We just make it up as we go along.
Really?
It's mythology if
I
you
get it.
Filipinos make it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Then it's
Yeah.
Philippine mythology.
Yeah, I mean, looking back now at what we did, it seems like, especially the first two books of TRESE, we ended up talking about the stuff that we generally knew as kids. So we talked
Right.
about the White Lady on Balete Drive. Of course, we had the Tikbalang and a Tiyanak and a Naswang.
Yes.
And it was only later on that I realized, oh, I've run out of stuff to talk about. Now I need to research. And so you know, I had two books at home, which was like my Bible for stuff.
Right.
There is a wonderful book called The Soul Book, written
Soul
by
Book.
Hilda Cordero Fernando, who unfortunately passed away a couple of weeks ago. But she has
gosh.
she's written, published, and edited a lot of books about Philippine mythology. And the Soul Book is essentially her compiling a lot of the academic writings, but she wrote it in a very narrative form. So for me as a kid, it was easy for me to dive into. So it was really just dipping in and out of that book, and occasionally like seeing one character from our mythology. So for example, turns out we have a god of war. So he's called the Talagbusaw, and but the book only has like a 3-sentence description of the guy. So
Right.
that just got my imagination running, and I toss it over to Kajo, and you know he designs this god of war for us. So I guess the interesting thing also about our mythology, so not a lot is written about it, so it's really up to us to add to it.
Nice.
Right.
For the listeners who are joining us who do not know what TRESE is, would you be so kind as to kind of give them an overview of what your series is about?
Yes. That always seems to be the hardest question.
That's why I wanted to
used to
start
it
off
by now?
with it. Yeah.
So
Let's start off like just
Like,
right.
what is my story about?
Yeah.
If after 30 minutes I still don't have an answer, just cut me off.
No, go for it, please.
Let's start, and we'll steer the conversation.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, no.
Yeah, just distract you like, space buttholes. But anyway,
Space butthole.
space butthole.
so TRESE is about Alexandra TRESE, and she is a consultant of the police. So as the book says, every time a crime takes a turn for the weird, they call Alexandra TRESE. And in this case, it's it's an urban fantasy / police procedural type of storyline, wherein crimes are committed by, or the prime suspects for the crimes committed are usually creatures from Philippine folklore and mythology. So a lot of the crimes at first seem like it was committed by an aswang or a tikbalang or a tiyanak, or even in the first one of the first stories that you guys will get to read is someone had murdered a ghost. So the infamous ghost of Balete Drive, for the ones who grew up in Quezon City most especially, there is a street there that is supposedly haunted by a lady dressed in white, and she always appears after midnight. But in this particular case, she is suddenly found. So the question is, how do you murder a ghost, and who would want to murder this ghost?
So how did you come across this concept? Like, I mean, were there other comics that kind of inspired you to kind of set upon this, or was it just a love for mythology? I'm like, how did it culminate in creating this kind of noir procedural comic?
It's definitely a mix of geekery.
Pan geekery.
Yes, pan geekery. Yes. And that's your soundbite, right?
There it is.
You have to take the title of your show. That's you're done. Yeah. Me and Kajo are big fans, of course, of Batman and John Constantine. And
gonna say,
in the 90s, of course, I was a big fan of the X-Files.
Nice.
In the 2000s, it was, of course, CSI. For me, CSI twisted the whole procedural by putting science on the forefront, right? And then they just resorted to playing techno music every time they were in the lab. So I'd still enjoy season 1 of CSI Vegas. But so mashing up those things, essentially, Twilight Zone, I guess, is a big influence. The 1980s Twilight Zone series, and a little bit of like Stephen King here and there. And of course, then put in all of the rest of like all of the scary stories our parents told us growing up. So that's all of the ingredients we tossed into the mix, which eventually gave birth to TRESE. And we've had, in the Philippines as well, there have been radio shows that tell you scary stories. We've had, TV shows, one particular news show, which is supposed to be providing you documentaries or in-depth reporting on crimes and corrupt government officials. They realized that if they do a show every Halloween about ghost stories, the ratings go up. So that became like a staple for me growing up. So again, put that all into the mix, and then I realized that I love telling. I've been dying to do a detective story. So I thought instead of just doing a regular ghost story or scary stories, I essentially wanted to do a Twilight Zone set in the Philippines, but through the lens of a police procedural.
And so then how did you and Kajo end up in a partnership? Were you already doing other comics separately and you kind of bumped into each other, or?
Kaj, you want to tell your side of the story?
Yeah, Budge and I met, I forgot the year, but it was probably about 17 years ago, 20 years ago.
Wow.
And we're from different groups of guys who are really wanting to break into Marvel and DC, I think. But then it turned out to be not so easy, so we just decided, hey, let's just make our own. So many trial and error and so many experimentations, and I don't think any of those ever worked. I don't think. Yeah,
Something worked.
well,
I'm sure. Right.
So we ended up, well, it first was Budge. He ended up working for an ad agency, and then that ad agency had a sister company, and I ended up working for that. And so we're still communicating. I think we did one Ashcan, one comic book. I throw him. I have several pages of art already done, and I don't know how to tell the story properly with words. So I throw it to Budge. He's good with that. Another experiment that I wanted to see if it will work, and I think it worked because it ended up becoming, not necessarily that comic book became TRESE, but the process, we developed the process through that book. And Budge, you tell
the rest of the story. So really quickly, coming from that experiment, so looking back now, I had the feeling Kajo was auditioning me. It's like testing me, like, oh, can Budge actually write a story based on this thing? So it was 2005, and Kajo sends me a text out of the blue. And to put it into context, me and Kajo work in an ad agency in the Philippines, which means you work from 9 to 5, which means you come to work at 9 in the morning and you go home at 5 in the morning the next day.
Wow.
It's like
that's the norm.
Wow.
Damn.
That's for real.
Anyway, for me, that was the time I started to like slow down writing my own stuff because work just took a lot out of me. Kajo texts me out of the blue and says, "Hey, Budge, you want to do a comic book?" He said, "I want to do a monthly comic book." And I just texted, "That's impossible." I said, "We'll never finish a comic book." It's like, I think it was in the middle of like doing an overtime. It was late at night. I don't know. But Kajo said, "If you can give me a script that's 20 pages long, I will finish it in 20 days."
Wow.
And I will draw it 1 page a day. And he said,
Wow.
In the last 10 days of the month, that's time for us to letter, put the words on the pages.
That's so fast.
What?
And then Kajo, Kajo said, and I will use images from inside the book to make the cover so that he doesn't have to draw a cover.
Double.
I already had the plan to, do the comic book. So I said, okay, let's test it. So I dug up an old script. So I had a really old script which I couldn't finish because I was trying to perfect it, right? I was like, this needs to be the greatest Filipino graphic novel ever. And I couldn't get past page 8, right? So,
Right.
But it was a guy named TRESE looking down at a dead body, and it was the dead body of the White Lady of Balete Drive. And I didn't know how to progress.
It was a guy, you said.
It was a guy. TRESE was originally a guy. He was originally called Anton TRESE. And at first, of course, he was an NBI agent, Fox Mulder. And then I changed him into, he's a tabloid reporter, which of course I was ripping off Carl Kolchak, the Night Stalker, right?
Right.
So Kajo said, okay, give me a 20-page story and I'll draw it in 20 days. So I got 1 page and I sent it to Kajo. And true enough, in 1 hour, over his lunch break, he drew the page and sent it back to me.
Wow.
God.
I didn't promise quality.
We are interviewing superheroes tonight.
Yeah.
I know.
Wow, my
That's
brain is
amazing.
blown.
So, go ahead.
And then, so he sends me the sketch just to wrap this little bit up. And he sent me like a, character profile. I was
Right.
looking
Over
at
his lunch break.
over his lunch break.
It's the only time to do it.
Wow.
No.
The only time I can do it. It wasn't well. I didn't. Like I said, I didn't promise Budge quality. I just told him I'll finish it in
It was gonna be
in
done.
an hour. Yeah.
Wow.
That's done.
Still.
Yeah.
That's
I
still we have to
It
get
was after
started.
seeing that sketch that just something just clicked in me, and I said, "Why this?" The artwork was really cool, and it actually gets reprinted in the back of our first book. I said,
Oh,
"There's
nice.
something so typical about it." If you look at the page, it's a tough guy. He's got a buntot pagi, he's like attacking the aswang. It's like it just looks like a lot of the other heroes we like. And I said,
Yeah.
what? And then
It's
just
seen
clicked to
before.
me and said, we haven't seen, at least in Philippine pop culture,
Right.
a really kick-ass female lead to a book.
Right.
And said, I don't think I thought it through. I just texted Kajo, what if TRESE was a woman? And Kajo just said, oh, that'll be so cool.
Nice.
And
And it was born.
and in less than an hour, he sends me the sketch.
Oh my god.
Wow.
In that first sketch, and we didn't say, oh, Kajo, give me like 20 designs of a character. He sends me this one sketch, and I said, well, that's her.
Wow.
Efficiency right there.
Oh.
Efficiency.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow. We're gonna ask Kajo some questions.
We're gonna ask some questions. I have a question though for
Yeah, go for it,
Kajo,
go for it.
if that's okay.
Yeah.
As far as you guys are two guys that basically incepted this entire project, but even from dabbling in comic book writing, I found that it's so difficult to even you have to think like a cinematographer, right? It's what do you put in each panel? How do you want to draw out each moment? How do you even write for that? Does it take a different brain to write those scenes? And then Kajo, do you have to conceptualize what Budge is writing and go it would be better expressed this way if we were to express this visual here and this visual here? How do you guys negotiate that? Or is how you work standard in the comic book world, or do you devise some kind of language that you both understand?
I'll talk a bit about the writing part because then Kajo can take the bulk of it. So the secret is you leave it all up to Kajo.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
Hold on a second.
Wait.
That
Are
sounds
you
too
telling me
good.
we've all been doing this wrong?
Yeah.
That sounds too good to be true.
Oh, gosh.
So there are, and me and Kajo have tried already, I guess, the two typical methods of writing a comic book. So
Okay.
we've done full script, which is similar to what you were just talking about, which is describing, mid shot or
Right.
close up shot and stuff like that. But whenever I give him a full script, it is always picking up from my favorite writer, Neil Gaiman. It is always a suggestion.
Nice.
Typically.
I'm sorry, it's always
Neil
what?
Gaiman.
Neil
Suggestion.
Gaiman says when you write a script for your artist, you are typically writing him a letter. If you think about your script, no one else gets to see it except your artist, and you are telling him in the best way possible what your thoughts are. And Gaiman loves to write a full script. And if you've seen an Alan Moore script, that just gets completely ridiculous, right? He would spend 3 pages, single space, type 8 font describing, I don't know, one panel. I'm not that
Jesus.
obsessed.
Right.
And then me and Kajo have also done the Marvel style, which is and this is what I mean by leave it up to Kajo. So sometimes my script will just say, TRESE enters a room. There's a bad guy. They fight.
Oh my.
That's so crazy.
And go.
So,
But maybe Kajo can talk about how he interprets the script.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so Budge gives me a general direction for what he wants to happen on that page. Or sometimes he tells me the whole story. So what he wants to happen from beginning to end. And then he'll make general descriptions of every page. And then from that page, I try to visualize it as fast as I can. Sketch it, and that's why the story of an hour to do it. I have to do it fast because I know that page will not be good. That first draft will not be good. That would really suck, and we will end up not using it. But if we do it that fast, I can show it to him immediately, and then we'll see if he needs to fix that idea or what parts of the page have to work out. So
how many times
tend
does
to
that
iterate,
revision,
you're right.
happen?
maybe about 4 times, because after that sketch, Budge will have new ideas, and then he'll send it to me, and then I'll do another one, and maybe that redo is more refined, and from there maybe they can start to finalize the dialogue captions from that, and then he'll send me those captions and dialogue, and I'll just adjust the layout again, adjust the panels again to suit those words, and then throw that third revision to him, and then I don't know. We can, from that third revision, we can decide if we're going through with the page or not. If he's okay with the page, I'll start thinking it and putting the words in. So
Nice.
a lot of back and forth, and it's fun. It's fun for me. Collaboration.
So you do tend to iterate on iterate many times upon a draft, essentially. You did bring up really quickly. You brought up Neil Gaiman and Neil Gaiman, I'm sorry, and Alan Moore. Do you have any other influences? What led you to this point in terms of the kind of art that you used to consume?
On the writing side, Gaiman. So it's the 80s guys: Gaiman, Alan Moore, Grant Morrison. It was, of course, Chris Claremont that we fall in love with collecting comics. But I guess in terms of writing influence, it would be those guys. I do have to say also that so the TV shows, like I said earlier, Twilight Zone, Stephen King. There was one Stephen King book that actually I think still, I really enjoy, and it was because it was an audio book. So it was called Nightmares and Dreamscapes, and they actually had,
that was an anthology series, right?
A fantastic cast to read that book. So they had Tim Curry, Whoopi Goldberg as the actors that read the book. And back in the 90s, that was actually it hasn't changed. I was about to say back in the 90s, traffic in Metro Manila was horrible, and it still is. So being stuck in traffic, we ended up listening to cassette tapes of Nightmares and Dreamscapes.
That's so cool.
I think those stories, especially one of them, which was about a police station in London that ended up dealing with some Cthulhuid type horror, right? But what's interesting that it was the thing is, it happened so often that the policeman reporting it was just so, here we go again. It's another one of these things. So it was one of those interesting things that that led me to okay, maybe a police procedural is the way to go.
Now, I want to come back to Neil Gaiman specifically. So Neil Gaiman actually endorsed your Indiegogo campaign, correct?
Wow.
Yes.
Can you tell us how, what, of all, of course, getting to interact with and getting this endorsement from one of your heroes, but how did that happen?
I stalked him. That's
how you leaned forward.
The truth comes out.
I know where you live. Let me qualify that before he sends it.
Mister, we have your stalker here, sir.
He's right here. He's online.
He's online. Just jump through the screen.
Yes. Big Neil Gaiman fan ever since I discovered him on Sandman and just collected.
Right.
Yeah. what was it? He started. I'm trying to remember if it was okay. So yeah, so he went to the Philippines. He went to the Philippines back in must have been 2003 or 4, and he filled up an entire what do you call this venue. So I think I don't know. There must have been like 1,000 people just cheering for Neil Gaiman. I think it was the first time it ever happened for him. So I was one of those guys who lined up to get something signed. The line was so long. I think we got up to on the stage at like 12 midnight. He stopped signing at 2 a.m. So the line was that long. So I got him to sign something, and I think it was a little after me and Kajo finished TRESE. I created a blog, and I just sent him an email saying, "Hi, Mr. Gaiman, do you remember me? I'm guy number 944. Hi. And thanks to your stories, me and my friend have written a comic book." And back then, his Neil Gaiman blog just started, and he actually posted a link to TRESE.
Oh, hey.
Wow.
So cool.
Back in 2005. So it was like when I was checking the stats of my blog back then, and I said, why are 100 more people? It's like 5 people. So it'd be like my mom, my brother, who come to my blog. It's like, there are more people coming to my blog. So that started it, and I just really kept. I was the annoying fanboy. I would just tell him, we have a publisher.
It works.
Yeah, so I would just keep him updated, and sometime more often than not, he'd like say, congratulations, or really short emails. The endorsement to get to that. So and then so when the book got published, I always sent him copies.
Right.
The endorsement happened because there was if it wasn't for this one guy. A few weeks before he gave the endorsement, one Filipino tweeted him and said, "Mr. Gaiman, why don't you write a story about Philippine myth and folklore?" And his reply to that was that, there are more writers and artists in the Philippines that are very, very capable of writing your stories. And something he said when he was in Manila was that if he wrote a Manananggal story, it would feel like a tourist writing about a Manananggal. So he said, he's very conscious about, would this really come out right? Or will it just come out as I'm just somebody from, a distance writing about this topic?
Right.
So he tweeted about that. And a few weeks later was when me and Kajo launched the Indiegogo campaign. Again, I sent a nice little email to him saying, "Hi, I'm 944 guy.
Oh my God.
Remember me?"
Years later.
Right.
And then he retweeted my tweet.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Does
so
he
cool.
know now?
Oh,
Does he
great.
know now that you guys are getting produced by Netflix?
As always, I'm still like sending him that.
Oh,
So,
Mr. Neil Gaiman, sir.
I know that's pretty awesome.
And I love that he's so like respectful about that
Right.
too, right? I mean,
He wants to give it to
makes me love him more.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's very like woke. It's very woke of him, for lack of a better word.
to be. He's Neil
I
Gaiman.
know. But before I do,
The creator
we move
of
into
the Master
talking
of
about
Sleep.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Before we do move into the next section, I do want to. We didn't get your influences, Kajo. I didn't want to hit upon that really quickly.
Same.
Okay. I was already into our local comic books here in the Philippines, even before I was exposed to American comic books. Maybe when I was 5 or 6, I was already reading the Filipino comics here. So my first influences were really Nestor Redondo and Alex Nino and Steve Gunn.
Got it.
Those Filipinos who ended up working for Marvel and DC eventually. So, but the book that made me really want to do comic books for a living is it's the It's X-Men #1 by Jim Lee. I'm a
Nice, Jim
kid.
Lee, right?
Yeah, Jim Lee. So Jim Lee would be #1 on my artist list, favorite artist list.
That's super cool. And I know a lot of, you're naming some heavy hitters. I just want to say that definitely, like, just looking at the art from TRESE, it's definitely got this amazing stylistic sense. Yeah, and it's super unique, I think.
And TRESE looks so sexy with her hair.
Yeah,
you've got that sexy razor type bob.
Right.
Yeah, with
There you go.
Right. But
so is there a live action version coming?
No, I know.
It's an anime, right? I'm so excited about this. Honestly.
Yeah, I can't wait to.
I just can't wait. Yeah.
Because I know it was announced back in 2018, and Jay Oliva was like announced attached to it, from DC. And do you have any news on that?
It's still in production, coming soon. Hope we give news soon.
Nice.
Do they ask you to come on as a consultant? How closely are you working with the team on Netflix?
Ever since, of course, when Jay Oliva got on as the showrunner, then he's the boss.
Right.
I guess that's the better arrangement for things. But we did get to spend a day with him. So Kajo got to spend a day with Jay and his art director. I got to, a day before Jay and the writing team started the scripts, I got to hang out with them, at least on video, to talk about the characters.
Right.
And then after that, they just started rolling ahead.
Wow.
Do you ever get worried that they might, I don't know, mess with your masterpiece? Do you trust them, Budgette?
I know.
I think Jay, of course, I only know him by his work, so it's great that he's done Batman, animated films, right?
Yeah.
But I think
he's already got that feel.
What made us feel that the project was in good hands is because of our producers. So our producers are Tanya Yuson and Shanti Harmain. So they run a production company called Base Entertainment. It's they're in Indonesia, so mostly it is Indonesian films they produce. But since Tanya is Filipina, then she's also finding Filipino projects to produce.
Oh, that's
and
great.
The great thing about
That's
Tanya and Shanti is that we met them maybe 7-8 years ago. So it's been that long. They have been pitching TRESE that long.
Wow.
To studios both in the Philippines and in the US. So there were moments where it felt like it was finally going to happen. A live action TRESE was finally going to happen.
Oh.
But then things...
A live action?
Yeah, at first we didn't... At first they were thinking this would make for a great live action film. So
all that CGI.
Exactly. So,
I don't want to pay for that.
Costumes, makeup.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You got that right. So eventually when it got down to talking about, what would it look like? So yeah, that was one of the factors.
Right.
But there were other things that came into play, and definitely it was one of those, maybe you can just have one aswang.
Possible.
Just one.
Yeah, just one. The entire series.
Yeah.
One of my favorite comments and this is from our local producers, and of course they know what sells well in the Philippines, right? But one producer took a look at TRESE and then asked, "So, do you think we should give her a boyfriend?" Okay, maybe you should read the book first.
Yes, I know. Maybe you should get a sense of the narrative
Read the
first.
story first. Yeah.
I know.
Wait, so as far as the animation goes for the new Netflix series, like Kajo, are you gonna have a hand in like the production element of that? Like how involved is the art team with like your original aesthetic?
I know. That one day that we spent with his art team, Direct J's art team, I think they were just wanting to see the limitations of the style. They want to know where I take the designs, where it comes from, and then from that, maybe I think they were wanting to push it, but they want to know the rules first before they can bend it.
Right.
So in terms of visual, maybe they'll take some from the comic books, but for me, that's as much input I have for the project. So it's all them.
Still, this must be very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Very, very.
The animation, what studio or who's doing the animation for the series? And where are they?
I don't know if I can talk about that yet, but it's definitely a studio that Jay has worked with in the past.
Right.
So
Okay.
It's a team that he really trusts and he's done projects with them before. So yeah, it's the last time I was in Manila, I got to meet with Tanya, and she got to show me some art from the series. So
you've seen some character designs and stuff,
some animatics and.
Just so far, I've only seen character designs, and I have read the scripts.
Wow.
So yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything.
You guys aren't sharing info?
I know.
And that's okay with me. I want to be surprised.
Okay, no, that's fair.
Pleasantly,
that's very zen of you.
I don't know.
I know. So we're getting short on time. I do want to before we end our section with you, you do so it's. TRESE has been printed primarily at a Philippine press, but you're getting a printing here in the States through the Ablaze imprint. And what are the details on that? When is that coming? How many books are we getting?
First book. So we are reprinting TRESE Volume 1, Murder on Balete Drive. It will come out this November. We just got news from our publisher, from Ablaze. It will be in comic book stores on November 4, and it will be in bookstores on November 17. So it will also be available on Comixology.
Nice.
Oh, great.
So
digitally.
So it actually, story-wise, it's the same stories that came out back in 2005, but this time Kajo has decided to redraw all of the stories.
Oh, wow.
And spend more than an hour on each page.
Oh my God! Wow.
I redrew the whole thing.
So
You redrew the entire
the
thing.
first issue?
The
Yes,
136
the first
pages.
Wow.
But we're just getting the first issue this November.
No, you're getting a 136-page graphic novel. He redrew
Nice.
the entire book.
Because did you want to improve it, Kajo, or what was
I'm not very confident presenting the world my lunch break art. my 1 hour a page art. I'm not very
You're
proud
being
of
humble.
that.
I read the first issue, and the artwork is striking.
It's so good. I looked at it. Yeah.
I don't even know what this next one's gonna look like. Maybe
I can't wait to see
Yeah.
Can't wait to see the upgraded art.
Yeah, upgraded.
That's awesome. I didn't realize it was the full redraw. That's amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
So kind of based on that, for you, Kajo, how do you feel your art style, or for that matter, your graphic narrative style has changed since you're revisiting these old scripts and these old panels?
I think it improved a little.
So humble.
Let me
not very
redo this whole
confident.
thing.
I know.
I mean,
can't wait.
do you feel you're restaging anything at all, or are you? Is it just kind of improving?
I think there are story. Yeah, I think pacing. I fixed some of the pacing. Some stories are very. Some panels or pages are too abrupt. The original ones, they're too abrupt. Maybe because we're limited to 20 pages per volume. This one, we're able to add 4 more pages to the original 20.
Wow.
So we were able to fix the pacing.
Definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I love that you have the opportunity to do that. Actually,
like cheating.
Yeah.
Now that,
Cheating.
Now that you,
but
okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Rodney has one more question, and then we have to move on.
First of all, thank you guys for joining us. We're so excited. And shout out to Cuyolas Portacio for setting this up for us. So you begin the introduction. I had a question because it's definitely mythology, and Caitlin and Jen are actually working on a comic about Filipino mythology as well. And I remember I actually had a dinner with ABS-CBN with Carlo Batik. He came out here and took a group of us that are in the industry, Filipino Americans, to a dinner because they want to expand into like globally. And one of the questions that kind of came up was they were thinking about going like more universal rather than specific. And there was a point in the dinner where I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, there's so many people that I know, and even myself, that are trying to understand who they are as Filipinos by through like Filipino mythology. By all these things, like, and there's so many of these stories about Aswang and all these things, and it's so captivating. Like, why do you think that is? Why do you think that there is such this resurgence of people wanting to understand like what the Filipino mythology is, but then also like learning like about their culture through the mythology?
I think it's part of. Let me try and answer that question by going off on a tangent. There was one time I was in an elevator, and this little girl comes in with her grandmother, and the girl was, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years old, and she was raving about Percy Jackson. She was just naming all of the gods and the Lord was like, And it was like the elevator door opens and I step out and the little girl is still, and there's this guy and that guy is like, and this is like, years ago. And when I stepped out of that elevator, it just made me think, what do we need to do to get that little girl talking about Philippine folklore and mythology and all of all of our epics and legends, right? And maybe that's partly it, Rose. There is you're looking at this generation that has been exposed to your Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Percy Jackson.
Right.
So they've now been opened up to this world of fantasy, which made them suddenly realize and look around and say, "What about where I come from?" Right. Mm-hmm. So I think, and take a look at at how the world has embraced manga. Look at how the world has. Every time a new manga comes out, suddenly you become a ninja expert, or you become, you memorize the what do you call this?
Names,
the Naruto, whatever things, right?
Yeah.
It's running like that, right? Yeah, exactly. So what is it about? There is something about, when you expose them to a mythology and a world that just makes them fall in love with that. So I think that's it. I think now that they've seen what the neighbors have done, they're like going, "What about me? What's around?" And now, and I guess, I don't know, maybe thanks to the internet, information is now easy to find. Before, and like I told you before, I had one book as my source material. So maybe it's a mix of that. It's this awareness of what other countries have, and then this now desire to like learn more about ourselves, and it's now coming out through story.
Yay!
I'll agree with that. I think there's definitely like a resurgence for interest and love in it, and I'm glad that we're all hopefully riding that to some kind of success. So
the reason that me and Jen were freaking out about the quick turnover, like the pace at which you guys work, is because our team, and I'm not saying this because people are lazy or anything.
What are you gonna say?
We all collectively move at a glacial pace. It's just so hard. Making comics is so hard, and I don't know. That's why I'm just in awe of you guys right now. Honestly.
Yeah, that 1 hour turnaround is amazing.
Yeah,
I've never heard that.
For us, it's more like 1 year. I don't know.
But I just want to thank both of you. Sorry, you have one last thing, Andy. We really need to go.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I just want to thank both of you for joining us. It's been a tremendous talk, and thank you for making time. I know there's a lot of time zone differences here. Is there anything else that you would like to plug or say with both TRESE coming out here and on Netflix?
So with for everyone who's in the US and around the world, look for the Ablaze edition. It's called TRESE Volume 1 Murder on Budjette Drive. To our readers in the Philippines, it will be available in Philbars and Comic Odyssey. And please visit myavenida.com, which is our Philippine publisher, if you want to see new local stuff. And if you follow Kajo on Instagram, he's been posting some preview art.
I've been following y'all for the last year. So.
Surprise!
I've been I'm your weird fanboy that's like, oh my god, what is he doing now?
Not 499 in line.
Yeah, I'm your 499. My Avenida. I was just looking for that link really quick.
I write that.
I was looking for it as well.
Yep, myavenida.com.
Myavenida.com.
myavenida.com. Yep.
Why am I getting a Spanish website?
Yeah.
It's all in Spanish.
I'm getting it. We'll ask you about
We'll
it
find
later.
it.
And then we'll put it on all our socials. But I just want to thank you both so much for joining us, despite the difference in time zones, and much continued success. And can't wait to hear more about the anime. Everybody in the chat is super excited. So yeah, thank you all. Thank you both. And have a good day. So we'll talk to you soon.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so
You
much.
guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Yay.
All right. All the thanks emotes. Thank you. I don't have a thank you emote. We're just going to use this. It's a GG. Thank you for all to all our guests today, to Eugene, to Kajo and Budjette. Lots of cool stuff. It is again the end of our season. This is our season finale, and again, we're not going to be gone completely, but this time slot will be we won't be here for a couple of months. That doesn't mean to say that we're not doing anything. We are still going to be putting out content. We're still going to have some kind of a stream schedule, but really quickly, we are starting up a Patreon. And this is just to help us produce the show in our next season. There are a few things we were looking at in terms of rewards, like getting listed on Twitch credits rolls, higher a discount on merch that we're going to hopefully be putting out, VIP status. I can't talk on Discord. Early access to exclusive content. So we are going to be rolling that out pretty soon. Check out the link when we post it. And again, that's just to help us continue to produce more content, because we do want to create more content for y'all, and hopefully higher quality, better production value stuff. Not that this is bad, but I'm just saying,
better is better.
Yeah,
better is better.
Yeah. Better is better. Again, thank you everybody for this amazing season, for all the support, all the subs, all the follows, all the bits
and
that everybody
the
has been.
that we just got.
And the donos.
Yes.
Did we get a dono?
Yes, we did, from Inferno.
Woo! Thank you, Inferno.
Hey, thank you for the dono.
Thank you for the
Germ.
bits, Germ.
Yeah, thank you for the bits. Y'all are the only reason we're still around, because you're here watching us, honestly. And as long as you're here, I think we're going to be doing some cool stuff. So we have a lot of cool stuff in line for next season. Do follow us on Instagram, on Twitter. Follow us here on Twitch. Not like you need to be told, but subscriptions, all that stuff. Thank you to the cast, to the crew for an amazing season. Welcome to our new co-host Andy Lowe. Although we've already officially welcomed him, I want to say.
It doesn't hurt to do it again.
Again.
So
Seriously, thanks for joining us, Andy.
he'll be back again once we start back up, hopefully like in the new year. And that's it, everybody. Does anybody else want to say anything?
Thank you so much for having us for this second season, even though, you know, the primary bulk of it was during quarantine. And, you know, we've grown so much as a podcast, and as an online presence during this time. And it's thanks to everybody here at Twitch. So thank you so much for joining us. And for those regulars who have been joining us week after week, this is for you guys. So.
As we all live out our cyberpunk dystopian fantasies.
I forgot to cue
existing online.
Thank you, everyone, every single person who has tuned in to Pangeekery on a Monday evening. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for watching the streams, watching people playing video games, listening to our ramblings and our vulgarities. We're here today because of you.
Because of you.
So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And
thank you, all of you, for having me on board. This has been very fun.
Of course, Chinese pirate.
And yeah, I look forward to the future.
Yay!
Rodney, anything?
Hopefully a brighter future.
Yes, much brighter future. A much brighter future.
Yeah.
Literally brighter and less red.
While I talk, how about we look for somebody to raid, and then while I talk and give us some final thoughts. I just want to thank everybody. You know, obviously this season has been really challenging just because of what we're living through, right? And what we hope that we did during the season was to provide some sort of escape, some sort of way to kind of keep your mind off things, to sort of examine the world that we're living through the eyes of like geekdom. You know, we talked about Watchmen. We analyzed the art, but also we understood that like there's a lot to it that's applicable to what we're living through with like Black Lives Matter, fighting white supremacy, all that stuff. And that's the power of geekdom, right? That's the power of story, that we can look at greater societal things, greater issues through the lens of storytelling, through geek storytelling. But then also, I hope that what we were able to do is be able to sit around and be like, just geek out about stuff and provide a community for all of you to just to fly your geek flag, to fly your geek flag. I actually saw a tweet from T-Pain, of all people. He's now streaming because of quarantine, right? And
so many people are. So many people are streaming now because of quarantine. And one of the things he says, coming as an African American and a rapper too in the hip hop world, he said that he basically said, "I wish I had not cared what people said about geek stuff earlier on, because now he's just like having the time of his life, geeking out, playing games on stream." And I had that same feeling, right? I had that same feeling growing up where I felt like I couldn't fly my geek flag because of what people would say about me, right? So at the end of the day, I hope that's one of the things that we do as a community, that we're able to allow you guys to fly your geek flag, and you're amongst geeks, and that we can sit around and talk and just literally talk for hours about geek stuff and play games and just have a great time. So at the end of that, so much love and thanks to Earl, to Jen, to Caitlin, and Andy, and also, I'd be remiss to say, thanks to Walter and to Aaron.
And Arnold.
Yes, and Arnold.
Talk to Jacob.
Who is that guy?
The rest of the crew.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Jedi. Thank you, Hazel. Kerja. Anybody that's did anything for us during this season and even seasons past, like, Ed and Mark and, all those fellas and all those people. We have a lot planned for the off season, but we also have some really, other things planned along the horizon as well. So, keep, follow us, please. Check out the Patreon. I know we're going to be on break, but we will be releasing content that will be worth the Patreon as well. Right. So if you, I'm not going to lie, it's been tough, but we love doing this. We love doing this for you. But we also know that, it does cost us, and we want to get to a point where we can be very sustainable and just, put more and more stuff into this podcast, and the community and all the things that we're doing. So if you guys, feel the need, we'll be posting the, Patreon if you can. We understand it's a really tough time for a lot of people, but if you love what we do and want to help support, please consider. So, yeah, I think that's it for me. And thank you everybody in chat. Thank you everybody and anybody's, and yeah, we had some pretty amazing milestones too. Dice K's video is like over 16,000, I think now, views on YouTube. So thank you to all the guests. Thank you to all the guests that have been with us all season long as well.
All the guests. So many guests.
Can I also put out a plug?
Sure, for sure.
So if everyone enjoyed any of the previous discussions with the cast members of Ghost of Tsushima, you can see many of them all together this coming Wednesday. East West Players YouTube and Facebook page, and our East West Wednesdays program at 5:00 p.m. We will have a panel discussion with Daisuke Tsuje, Karen Hui, Francois Chow, Fyodor Chin, Tim Dang, who else met? Lauren Tom, and Michelle Wong. So if you'd like to check that out and see all of them kind of talking together about what this process was like, and get a little bit more insight into the creation of Ghost of Tsushima, check that out.
Cool.
Yay, nice.
All right, you want to go ahead and sign us out there, Earl?
All right, folks. Thank you once again for everybody, for everything, for all the love, for all the bits, for all the cheers, all the subs, all the follows for this entire past few months. We are going to come back bigger, better, stronger in a couple of months, recharged, and we're going to have some premium content for y'all. So can't wait to do that. In the meantime, everybody stay safe. We'll still see you, but in a limited capacity. But in the meantime, everybody stay safe. Take care of each other, and be well. Good night, everyone.
Stay geeky.